It was supposed to be my special day. My birthday. Just one day out of the whole year where I hoped to feel seen, celebrated, maybe even loved. The living room was decorated with balloons, a cake sat on the table, and the room was full of people. Family, relatives, some old family friends. They were all smiling, laughing, sipping on drinks. But I could feel it in the air, that I was just another excuse for them to gather. The attention wasn't on me, it never really was. My sister was cracking jokes in the corner, her laughter echoing louder than anyone else's voice. She was always the star. The pretty one, the favorite one, the one who could do no wrong. Me. I was just the other daughter. They had thrown this party, sure. But it wasn't really for me. It was for appearance. My dad barely even looked at me. My aunt hugged me with that half-fake warmth she always gave. And my sister? She handed me a gift with the biggest grin on her face. It was a small, shiny box, perfectly wrapped with a golden ribbon. Everyone turned toward me as I held it, their eyes wide with curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, this was finally something special. Something thoughtful. I slowly untied the ribbon, opened the box, and my heart sank. Inside was an empty necklace box. No necklace. Nothing. At first I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the necklace had slipped out? But my sister started laughing. A couple of cousins joined in. "It's just a joke," she said between giggles. "Lighten up, sis." Others chuckled too, though awkwardly, unsure how to react. I looked at my father, he just shook his head slightly like I was being dramatic. I forced a smile. I nodded and laughed a little, pretending like it didn't hurt. Inside, I was crushed. That tiny box felt like a mirror showing me everything I had been feeling for years. Invisible. Wanted. I wasn't surprised. Disappointed, yes. But not surprised. I held that empty box in my hands and told myself, it's okay. You're used to this. But that night something inside me shifted. I didn't cry, not then. I just sat there, surrounded by people who never really saw me, holding a gift that matched exactly how they made me feel all my life. Growing up, I always felt like I was living in the shadow of my sister. It wasn't that she was better than me. It was just that she was always the one who caught their attention. It started when we were little, with my parents' eyes lighting up every time she spoke. Her grades were always better, her smile always brighter, and her friends always loved her. I worked hard to do well in school too, but no one noticed. I'd come home with a report card full of A's, but it would barely get a passing glance. My sister would come home with a B+, and everyone would act like she had just won a gold medal. It wasn't just about school either. Whenever she played the piano or sang at family gatherings, everyone would stop what they were doing and listen. When I tried to share something I was proud of, my art, my writing, or even just a small achievement, there was always something else that caught their attention. The praise always went to her, the spotlight always landed on her. And I got used to it. I learned to keep my head down, to stop trying for things that would just be brushed aside. What hurt the most, though, was the way my father treated us. It wasn't just favoritism, it was something deeper, something that made me feel like I didn't matter. He'd always take my sister's side, no matter the situation. She could say the cruelest things to me, but he'd turn a blind eye. I remember one time when I was 10, I had worked so hard to make a surprise birthday card for him. I spent hours on it, designing every detail, pouring my love into it. When I handed it to him, he smiled and said, "Thanks, kid," but then quickly turned to my sister and complimented her on the gift she had bought for him. I could see the disappointment in my eyes as he barely even noticed the effort I had put into something for him. But my sister? She was his golden child. I was just the one who got in the way. But there was one person who always had my back. My mom. She was my quiet champion. She noticed the small things, the hard work I put into everything, the quiet sacrifices I made to keep the peace in our house. She was the one who told me I was good enough even when no one else did. I could talk to her about anything and she'd listen without judgment. I still remember the late-night talks we had, especially during my teenage years when everything seemed to be falling apart. I felt like I was drowning in a house where I didn't belong, but my mom was always there to pull me back up. Her support was like a lifeline. The bond one had with her was deep, unspoken, and unbreakable. But when she got sick, I could feel the weight of the world starting to close in on me. The disease took its toll on her quickly, and soon it was just the three of us. Me, my sister, and my dad. But even then, my sister acted like everything was still about her. I was too young to handle the responsibilities, she'd say. She needed attention, she needed support. And so, while I sat by my mother's bedside, quietly holding her hand as she slipped away, My sister was in the other room complaining about how much it was too much for her to deal with. It felt like she was always taking, always demanding, while I was left silently taking care of what needed to be done. When Mom passed, everything changed. My sister took full control of everything. Our family home, the finances, even Dad. She made it clear that the house was now hers to run. I was pushed aside. Not physically but emotionally. And she didn't even try to hide it. She mocked me, belittled me for the way I mourned, like I wasn't allowed to grieve the way I wanted to. She had everything, the money, the power, the attention. And I had nothing. I was invisible. After Mom passed, everything felt like it was falling apart. There was no one to hold everything together anymore. My dad, as usual, had no idea how to manage anything. He became even more distant, falling deeper into his own grief. My sister took control of the house and the finances. She pretended like she had everything under control, but I saw through the act. The truth was she didn't care. She had always been the one to take what she wanted, and now she was taking it all. I couldn't just sit back and let everything crumble. No one else seemed to notice what needed to be done. So I picked up the pieces myself. I started working long hours, taking night shifts, doing whatever I could to make sure bills were paid, and the house didn't fall apart. I didn't complain and I didn't ask for help. I just did it. There were days when I was barely awake, running on caffeine and sheer willpower, but I kept going. No one asked me how I managed it, no one noticed that I was burning myself out just to keep things from falling apart. I remember the day Dad got sick. It was sudden. One moment he was fine and the next he was barely able to move. The doctors said it was serious and he needed surgery right away. But there was no money. My sister was too busy with her own life and she didn't want to deal with it. She kept saying, "It's not my responsibility." So I took it upon myself. I didn't even think twice. I remembered Mom's old necklace, the one she used to wear all the time. It was beautiful, with intricate designs and a pendant that always reminded me of her. I knew it was worth something, but I also knew it was the last piece of her I had left. I sold the necklace. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even ask. I just took it to a jeweler and used the money to cover Dad's surgery. I knew it was the right thing to do, but it hurt. It hurt to give up the last tangible connection I had to my mother, but it was the only way. After the surgery, Dad recovered, but I didn't want to hear a word of gratitude from anyone. I did what I had to do silently, quietly. I kept everything to myself, never mentioning how I was holding everything together. I didn't want pity or sympathy. I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I worked hard, built my skills, and started freelancing. Slowly, I started earning well enough to take care of myself even if no one noticed. I didn't brag about it, though. I didn't flaunt my success. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone. I was just trying to survive. I learned to be strong on my own without anyone's help or acknowledgement. But it was all worth it even if no one else saw it. I was building something for myself, something no one could take away. One day while I was cleaning out some old things in the attic, I found it. Mom's old Bible. It was worn, the pages yellowed with age, but it was still there, tucked away in the back. As I flipped through the pages, I found a folded piece of paper, carefully tucked inside. It was Mom's will. Not the one everyone had seen, but the real one. The one she had written herself in her own handwriting. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea she had left me anything. And there it was, in black and white. Everything Mom had worked so hard for, everything she had promised me was mine. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. At that moment, I realized that I wasn't as invisible as I had thought. There was something for me, something that no one could take away. I sat there, my hands shaking slightly, holding the empty necklace box. My sister was still laughing, her eyes filled with that smug satisfaction that made my blood boil. The room was full of forced chuckles, as if everyone was in on some inside joke that I was too naive to understand. They had no idea how much it hurt. I wasn't going to let them see it. I wasn't going to let my sister see how deeply she had cut me. But something inside me snapped. A switch flipped. For so long I had stayed quiet, swallowing the hurt, pretending that it didn't matter. I'd always been the one to smile through the pain, to keep my emotions hidden behind a mask. But not this time. I wasn't going to sit there and take it anymore. I forced myself to breathe slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt a calmness settle over me, as if everything had fallen into place. I stood up slowly, deliberately, the entire room going silent as they watched me. My sister's laughter faded as she realized I wasn't going to play along with her little game. The energy in the room shifted instantly. The smiles that had been plastered on everyone's faces started to fade. There was a tension in the air that was almost palpable. They weren't sure what to expect from me, and that's exactly what I wanted. They had all underestimated me, believed I was just some quiet, invisible person they could push around. But that was about to change. I walked to the center of the room where everyone could see me. My sister's smile faltered as she tried to meet my eyes, but I didn't look at her. I wasn't interested in her anymore. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope, the weight of it heavy in my hands. I didn't say a word as I placed it on the table in front of her. The moment the envelope touched the surface, the room went completely silent. The tension was thick, like a storm that was about to break. My sister stared at the envelope, then back at me, her smile slowly fading as she realized what was happening. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. "You gave me nothing," I said, my voice calm even but carrying a weight I knew she could feel. "But I'll give you something in return." I didn't flinch. I didn't let my emotions spill over. I was in control now. And as my sister reached for the envelope, the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for whatever would happen next. The laughter had disappeared. The smiles were gone. And for the first time the attention was on me. The envelope was thick, and as she opened it, a slip of paper fell out. She glanced down at it, her face going pale as she read the words. Her name alongside a number that she couldn't ignore. I had transferred everything, the house, the bank accounts, everything she thought was hers, into my name. I wasn't just giving her a gift. I was giving her the consequences of all the years she had tormented me, the years she had taken from me without even noticing. Now it was time for her to feel what it was like to be invisible, to be the one who had nothing left. I stood there watching as the energy in the room shifted once again. This time it wasn't fear or tension. It was pure shock. And I felt a strange, satisfying calm wash over me. The silence lingered, and for the first time in my life I felt truly seen. I watched my sister's face as she held the envelope, the shock still written all over her features. Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped through the papers inside, not quite sure what she was looking at. It was almost like she couldn't comprehend what was happening, what I had done. And then, as if to seal the moment, I did something I had kept hidden for so long. I reached into my bag again, pulling out the letter. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was the truth, everything I had kept locked inside for years. I took a deep breath and without a word, I unfolded it and began reading aloud, my voice calm, but every word slicing through the tension in the room. "Dear sisters," I began, my voice steady. "I never asked for your praise nor your attention. I never expected to be your favorite or for you to understand me. But I also never expected to be completely invisible. I've spent years watching you take from me our parents' love, their attention, the life that should have been shared equally between us. And in silence I gave everything I had. I never complained. I never told anyone. I simply did what needed to be done." I paused for a moment, glancing up. My sister's face was unreadable now, but I could see the tension in her jaw. She didn't know what was coming, and I wasn't about to stop. "I paid for Dad's surgery," I continued, my voice still calm but my heart racing. "I sold Mom's necklace, the last thing she left me, and I never told anyone. It was just something I had to do because no one else would. I worked nights, long shifts, all alone just to keep things afloat. And not once did anyone ask how I was managing it. How I was holding us together." I paused, feeling the weight of every word, but I knew I had to say it. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "And today, as I stand here watching you laugh at me with your empty gift, I realize something. You never cared. Not truly. It was always about what you could take, what you could control. And that's why I'm finally telling you the truth." I took a deep breath and placed the final piece of the puzzle on the table. I found Mom's real will. The one she kept hidden away. And in it she left everything to me. Not to you. Me. I never wanted to use it, not until today. But today everything changed. I felt the room go still as the words hung in the air. My sister was frozen, the color draining from her face as she realized the truth. I finished the letter with the final sharp blow. "This empty box reminded me of how empty your love has always been. So now I give you what you gave me. Nothing. But this time legally." I placed the letter on the table with a soft thud, and the silence that followed was deafening. The room was frozen in time. My sister was completely stunned, her mouth opening and closing but no words coming out. Her face had gone pale, and her eyes darted from the letter to me, back to the envelope on the table, like she couldn't believe what she was reading. For the first time I saw her caught off guard, her control slipping. But instead of acknowledging the truth, she tried to deny it, shaking her head. "This is a joke, right? This is some kind of prank." Her voice was shaky, but she was trying to hold on to her facade. She forced a laugh, but it was weak, desperate. "You can't seriously think this is real." I didn't respond to her. I didn't need to. Instead, I calmly slid the legal document across the table, the one that transferred everything to my name, every asset, every right. I followed it with the last thing I had kept hidden, something that no one could ignore. Mom's handwritten note, the one tucked away in her Bible, sealed with her final wishes. I watched the color drain from her face as she slowly looked at both documents. Her voice faltered as the weight of the truth hit her. Her perfect image, the one she had worked so hard to maintain all these years, was collapsing in front of everyone. The smiles that had once been directed at her quickly faded as the family around us started whispering among themselves. Some people shifted uncomfortably, others slowly started moving away from her, almost as if they too were beginning to see her for who she truly was. My father sat there, utterly stunned, speechless. He couldn't comprehend what was happening. For the first time, he wasn't able to defend her or sweep it all under the rug. He just sat there, looking lost, as if everything he thought he knew was crumbling away. And then my sister broke. Her fake bravado shattered. She screamed in frustration, her voice high-pitched, filled with desperation. "Please no. You can't do this. You don't understand." Her tears flowed, but they weren't for me. They were for herself, for the life she had lost, the control she had lost. I didn't respond to her pleas. I just stood there, my posture straight, my heart steady. For once, I wasn't invisible. For once, I wasn't the one ignored. I was seen. I was heard. And more than that, I was respected. I walked out of the house that day with a peace I had never felt before. It wasn't the satisfaction of revenge that filled me. It was something deeper. I hadn't taken revenge on anyone. I hadn't sought to ruin anyone's life. All I had done was reveal the truth. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely free. The chaos of that night faded behind me as I stepped out into the cool night air. The weight that had pressed on my chest for so long, the years of invisible sacrifices, was gone. I had taken control of my own life. It wasn't about making them suffer. It was about making them see me, see the truth. And that was enough. A few days later, the legal process was complete and I moved into the family home. Legally this time. The house that had once felt like a prison now felt like my sanctuary. It was no longer just a house. It was a symbol of everything I had built on my own. I also started a foundation in my mother's name, something she had always dreamed of but never had the chance to do. It was my way of honoring her, of turning her legacy into something that could help others, just like she had always wanted. My sister, unable to face the consequences of her actions, eventually left town in shame. She couldn't handle the truth, the downfall of her carefully crafted image. And my father, after days of silence, called me one evening. His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "I'm sorry, we were wrong," he said, and I could hear the regret in his tone. But I didn't need his apology anymore. I ended the conversation softly, knowing that everything had changed. Sometimes the most powerful words come in silence. And sometimes, a simple letter can turn an empty box into a full life.